Welcome, guys, to Unit 5. Unit 5 is going to be all about geometry, but don't think that we're going to not need our algebraic knowledge. We're going to be applying what we just did in Unit 4, and we're going to be going back to Unit 3, which is with proportions. And that's why this first lesson is actually a review of scale factor, which is where we ended Unit 3 on. I'm also going to set expectations for this upcoming unit and some activities that you're going to be doing. So let's go on. Now, this is our review, and this question might look familiar. We've done this exact question in Lesson 8, Unit 3. You were asked to answer this question. Identify all the drawings that were scaled copies of the original F. Now, if you don't remember what a scaled copy is, it is a copy where every compared lengths are the same ratio. This goes back to proportional. So every compared length. So for example, we can start and we could say, okay, in my original, the length of this is 4. The length of this is 2. The length of this is 1. But it's more than just that. We also have to look at the relationship between them. For example, this length of 1 is directly in the middle of the full length. So it's not just the measurements, but everything, every relationship must be. And so all of a sudden we're like, okay, well, this one was 6. Well, okay, so this was 6. This right here was 3. This right here was 1.5. And these measurements were 3 as well. Well, I color coded on purpose so we can find the ratios. Well, the ratio of the green sides, 3 to 2. Okay, that's 1.5. The ratio of the black sides are also 3 to 2, which is 1.5. The ratio of the orange sides are 1.5 to 1, which is 1.5. And the blue sides are 6 to 4, which is 1.5. So drawing 1 is a yes, it is a scale factor. Drawing 1 is a scaled copy because all ratios are 1.5. It's proportional. And this 1.5 we realized is what we called our scaled factor. Factor is something you multiply by. So that means to get from the original to the scaled copy, we would multiply by 1.5. And that was what we were exploring. So let's see what we remember about scaled copies. One of the questions we were asked also in that same lesson was to use these drawings. So I'm going to do an example first. And we're going to draw a scaled copy of figure B using a scale factor of 3. Now, to make it so that you could interact with this, I'm going to quickly highlight some of these sides in different colors so that I can ask you questions about the side lengths that are labeled. And let's get one more color. We will have this. Okay. So I'm going to ask you some questions about this. For example, in my original, the blue side is length of 1. And since I'm using a scale factor of 3, in my scaled copy, the length of it should be 3. 3 times, I'm going to put that actually more in the middle a little bit, 3 times the original amount. So I'm going to pause it and let you guys tell me the length of some of my other sides. All right. So hopefully you saw that this side of 3 should now be 9. And it's just straight up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We saw that this side is also 3 and therefore should be 9. And this side is 2 and therefore should be 6. Well, we can't find the length of the black diagonal because it's diagonal, so we can't actually measure it. So we have to find everything in relation. This is going to be important for later, for the assignment you're doing. It's in relation. Well, I think to myself, okay, the distance between the green and the orange here is 2, which means the distance I need is 6. So I also see that I want it to be 1 lower than the green. That means I want it actually 3 lower than the green. So I'm going to go, okay, 1, 2, there's 3 lower than the green. And I want a distance of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the bottom of my orange line is going to be right there. Now I'll go 9, 3, 6, 9. I now know that my black line comes down here. I can now use the last 2 and use the scale factor of 3 to realize that it's going to be 6. And there is my scaled copy. Now I asked you to then write an equation that represents the transformation from the original copy to the scaled copy, because our original is our independent variable, which is therefore going to our dependent variable. Well, if we look, we went from 3 to 9. We went from 1 to 3. We went from 3 to 9. We went from 2 to 6. So what did we do to get from here to here? We multiplied by 3. So my equation would be 3x, because we take the x values of the original copy, we multiply by 3, and this will equal my scaled copy y. I now have 2 practice problems that you are going to do in your notebook, so I will see the pictures when you upload them, but you will be inputting the equations and some of the measurements into the PlayPosit. So here is the first one. Just like before, I'm gonna say that this is my blue line, this is my orange line, this is my green line, and I can leave the last as my black. So go ahead. So here's the answer to practice 1. As you see, I labeled all of the sides in my original copy, as well as noticing that this blue line goes 1 beyond from the orange to the blue. So I'm noticing that. That's why over here, it ends up going 2 beyond, because every relationship is influenced by a scale factor of 2. Well, okay, so the original, which is my x, when I multiply it by 2, as I show here in my equation, I get the y value. All right, here's practice 2. Again, to make my life easier, this is now your orange side. This is now your blue side. Here's now your green side. I'm going to have a dark blue side. So this is my dark blue side. This is my gold side. I'm running out of colors. Here's my yellow highlighted side. And here is my green highlighted side. And the third one is my black side. So go ahead. Scale factor of 1/2. Then write the equation. So for this one, because the scale factor was 1/2, everything got smaller by 1/2. Because 7 times 1/2 is 3.5 for the orange side. 2 times 1/2 is 1. So my equation is 1/2 times x equals y. All right, I look forward to seeing your drawings. Here is a task now. So I will see this when you upload it in your notes. So I want you to read this question and see how you do. Go ahead. So they asked us to compare this side to a side that becomes 5 units in our copy. So all of a sudden, that side we know is 5. So we're thinking, if this is my original, this is my x, my original, and I'm going to my y, what is happening? Well, it's x divided by 3 equals y. Or I could write it as 1/3 x equals y. Either of these are acceptable equations. You would discuss the scale factor, though, as whatever you multiply by. So the scale factor is 1/3. So all of a sudden, my side of 18, I could realize, is now going to be 6. My side of 36 is going to be 12. My side of 30 is going to be 10. My side of 21 is going to be 7. And my side of 12 is going to be 4. So there is my scaled copy. There are my equations. So we're going to do one last activity that is a review of what we've done in the past. You're going to determine the scale factor. So remember, scale factor. So it's even if it's a divide by 4, we say that the scale factor is 1/4 because it's what you multiply by. You're going to write the equation to determine the transformation from the original, which is our x, to the scaled, which is our y, and then you're going to use the scale factor to determine the missing side length. So here are the practice problems. Here is the first one. Let me move it down so you just see the 1. Here is practice problem 3. So the instructions, fill out the play posit as you go. So I'll do this one in a little more detail. So remember, our scale factor is to figure out how to get from here to here what we multiply by. And it ends up being multiplying by 7, because 7 matches up with this side length, which is 7. So all of a sudden, our scale factor, we could represent as that is 7. That's step 1. Our equation is we're taking our x and multiplying it by 7, and it results in y. Well, I can then use my scale factor to actually work backwards and do the inverse and think about what times 7 equals 70, or undo the multiplication by dividing, and I can get that x equals 10. I could also use the equation and know that this represents our y value and say 7x equals 70. Divide by 7, x equals 10. So this is me using this equation. All right, here's the next practice problem. Go ahead. So here, remember, scale factor is what you multiply by. So even if you notice that it's dividing by 2, and you can actually write your equation as x divided by 2 equals y. You still say your scale factor is 1/2. So again, I'm now using my equation and realize that x is 24, because half of 24 is what gets me to 12. All right. Here's the next practice problem. Go ahead. So again, we see that it is dividing. We see what's happening is we're dividing by 4 to go from the original to the scaled, but scale factor therefore means multiplying by 1/4. I've written my equation in 2 different ways, and you can then use the equation. Again, you can use whatever work you want, just show it. I didn't show it, so I'm going to do that now. I'm going to say that I realized to get here, I have to divide by 4. That's enough work. 39.2 divided by 4 is 9.8. All right. Got 2 more practice problems for you. Here's practice problem 6. My scale factor, again, is 1/11. because we're dividing by 11 to get from the original to the scaled. They're the two forms of being able to write the equation. I was then using the inverse and said if I'm dividing by 11 to get from the original to scaled, I multiply by 11 to get from scaled to the cup, from the scaled to the original, which got me 55. Here's practice number 7. Go ahead. Here is practice 7. Now, as I go on, the rest of this lesson is me sort of setting up an expectation of what to expect going forward. So make sure you listen carefully to hear what we're doing this unit. So here's the assignment for the next few days. My goal is to get you guys off the computer and get you moving a little bit. So what you are going to do is you're going to create an appropriately scaled blueprint of your apartment/house. Now, this might seem like a big task right now, but I will give you in the assignment sheet each day the task that you're going to do. So each day you will get the task. So it's going to break it down so it's going to become more manageable. Now, you must upload whatever you accomplished for those. Sometimes it's going to be 2 days assignment. Sometimes it's going to be 1 day assignment. During class time, I'm always going to be available on Google Hangout. So just come on there if you have any questions. Now, tomorrow's lesson, the next lesson, I give a little bit more detail of my explanation. This is just a little overview of what to expect. The geometry topics in 7th grade are sort of all over the place. But with this first one, I really want to get you up and moving. Now, here is a blueprint. Now notice that nothing is marked except what I've put there, because I wanted to start talking about this with you. You are going to be creating some scale. So I'm saying 3 centimeters is 6 meters. So all of a sudden, if all of us, I see, ooh, this is not marked correctly. It's hard to see because of how it was marked. This right here was 3 centimeters. Well, that means in the original, it was 6 meters. So that was easy. Doing this 2.5 might take a little bit more work. You're going to be creating this blueprint with all these dimensions. In tomorrow's video, because I will give you an introductory video, it goes into more details. But for now, enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, everyone.